Hi, everyone. Welcome to Bud Funding Sustainability Live. My name is Kristen Skelton. I'm the founder of Bud Funding, a social enterprise. I go live every week, every Wednesday in Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, sharing different tips, tricks, hacks, basically anything I think is neat about sustainability. And sometimes I have guests. Today, I have the lovely Liz Romo here with me, and we're going to learn more about her exciting social enterprise, and we're going to do a live DIY project with you. So before we jump right in, Liz, how are you doing today?
Wonderful. A pleasure to be here.
Very
Thank you.
happy to have you here with me. And Liz has been part of our past expos. Actually, in the past, we usually have two expos per year, but they are in-person events, so we're not having them at the moment. But Liz has been part of those. And a little bit about Liz, and then we'll get into some questions, and then we'll jump right into all the fun. So Elizabeth is a biologist and impact entrepreneur. She has been inspired by the simplicity and the power of nature, which has influenced her professional and personal beliefs. Almost 20 years ago, she co-founded Ciclomanias, which is a social enterprise rethinking waste and contributing to a circular economy through art and environmental education. So Liz, can you explain a little bit more about what your organization does and how it got started?
Definitely. Well, Ciclomanias, as you mentioned, is a social enterprise that offers a wide variety of upcycle art and crafts, including do-it-yourself kits and children's books. And we also provide a set of science-based and art programs for all ages. And particularly, well, at Ciclomanias, we love upcycling. And for those that are new to this concept, upcycling is also known as creative reuse. And this is the process, I will say, that has the magic of transforming unwanted materials into something of a better quality, another product of material that has a better quality and environmental and an artistic value. So it offers also a wonderful way to connect with our communities and to start talking about sustainability and lifestyle in a fun and enjoyable manner. Sometimes we are overwhelmed of so many environmental crises that we hear we are facing, and I feel that art is this dialogue and is the best way and very friendly approach to connect with the personal level first before starting talking about all these overwhelming things. So I particularly love upcycling because it combines two of my passions in life, which is nature and art. Nature has been always a source of inspiration for me, as many of you, and I see my artwork as a tribute to nature's magnificence and as a way to protect it and raise awareness about their protection and ways to do something about it and preserve our pristine natural resources. I also enjoy upcycling unwanted materials and unloved materials and transform these ordinary materials into something that is useful, that is colorful, full of personality, that deserves a longer life. These two elements are also wonderful to connect with all a diverse group of people, from kindergarten kids to seniors. And it's actually how I started and co-founded Ciclomanias 20 years ago. When I was studying biology in Mexico, I wanted to raise awareness about what I was learning at that time about our beautiful environment and ways to mobilize communities towards action and environmental protection. And the best way to do it was through art and upcycling activities. So I started connecting seniors with undergrad students in upcycling activities through a volunteer program I developed and implemented back home when I was an undergrad student. The program was called Never Too Late to Make a Difference, and it was a great way to connect art, environmental conservation while building communities. These workshops help connect these two generations that usually don't talk or are so separated in their own bubbles, and they start talking about environmental issues, particularly waste, in a fun and artistic and productive way. So this was the beginning of Ciclomania's holistic approach and to integrate the three pillars of sustainability by protecting our environment with productive and artistic activities while empowering vulnerable groups, like in this case, our seniors. So that's a little
And
bit too long.
oh, that's great. I actually just had a brainwave. Is Ciclomanias, does that mean like, is that related to a play on a circular economy?
Yes,
Yes.
totally. And I
Oh,
missed
that's
that part. Love that
okay.
question, Christine. Thank you. I missed that part. Yes. So the origin of the word so it comes from upcycling, looking at how we can contribute to circular economies in a way that we keep circulating those materials instead of just dumping into the landfill or even recycling, because as we all know, recycling is actually not the solution for our waste problems. So that's definitely the origin of the word. It comes from a Spanish word, so ciclomanias, from recycling, and manias is hand. So everything is handmade. Now the translation, and that is why you will find me also on social media sometimes with a Y, cycling, referring more like keeping that cycle as Ciclomanias. That would be kind of the way of talking in English. But yeah, thank you for the question, Kristen.
I love that. And yeah, not everyone knows, every type of plastic can't be recycled. And even when those plastics are being recycled, they actually downgrade in quality each time they're recycled. So that's awesome. And I don't know why that never clicked before, but I love that name. And so
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, right now we're in a linear economy. So we take, we make, and we waste, but we want to rethink waste, and we want to make sure those resources stay in the economy, and then they basically cycle. We keep using them and we don't throw them out. So
Yeah.
have you always had an interest in art growing up? Did you have any friends or family members or other creative influences inspire your creative side?
Oh yes, definitely. I have been very lucky to be surrounded by a lot of artistic minds, and also I have always found art as a wonderful refugee and way to relax and express myself. I have enjoyed from little early ages, from my childhood, coloring, painting. It was very easy for my mom to keep me quiet, just give me a coloring book and start just coloring, painting. And then when I start studying, I start taking some classes, especially acrylic paints and oil painting. And one of the classes actually that I learned a new technique, which is the one that I actually use in all my current designs, the technique is called ludoplastia. So this technique was created by an artist and architect from Mexico, Jose Luis Vargas Luevano, and so ludoplastia comes from a Latin word that means from ludos, play, and plaste, shapes. So it's playing with the shapes in their literal meaning. So my artwork is based in this principle of playing with geometric shapes. So any of the products that you will find on my website, on social media, is actually founded on this principle of playing with the geometric shapes and providing that 3D dimension using recycled materials. Particularly, my favorite is corrugated cardboard and plastic bottles. So today we're going to be playing with that and give that 3 dimension, and playing also with different designs and colors that are most of the products that I use, or most of the designs and colors that I use in my artwork, reflects elements of nature, particularly plants, animals, landscapes, and I even call the painting technique is more like a sunset a colored painting touching, because it doesn't define a specific color, but all together it's like a merge of all these colors that reflects the different seasons and also settings. Besides my professor, Jose Luis Vargas, I have been also lucky enough to be surrounded by creative influencers during my childhood, like from the beginning, my dad, who was wonderful at drawing. My brother and I used to have this little painting contest in where my dad was the judge, and it was also very fun, and was a great way to start developing your artistic, I guess, style, if you want to call it. And also my auntie was a kindergarten teacher, and she was always encouraging kids to bring things from their house to create something, and so empowering them to bring in also and being part of the creation of art at their classroom. and starts expressing themselves with that. And my mom has been always an inspiration for me. She continued actually working with Ciclomanias in Mexico. She continued painting and doing her crafts and art projects as well. So I have been lucky to be surrounded always with creatives mind. And here as well, I have an extensive connection of friends that are very talented, and they love crafting and doing a lot of artistic things. I have a friend here in Calgary as well that she loves exploring with other material like aluminum caps. So we're doing also kind of more into tin cans, what we can do with aluminum caps and things like that, that we are coming up with new designs and things like that. So it's wonderful to build community through that and connect through art. So I have been lucky to be surrounded by all these minds for sure.
Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, what brought you to Canada in the first place? I don't think I know that story.
Well, I came to study the Master's in
Okay.
Sustainable Energy Development almost 12 years ago. Time flies, and it's so easy to fall in love with the
Yeah.
Rockies. So I studied here my master's, and then I become more like a monarch butterfly, just kind of migrating from time to time to Mexico and coming back. And then I decided to settle here. So I have been living here for almost 12 years in Calgary, pretty much. And so it has been a wonderful experience and a great connection, actually, I think, with the people, with the landscape, with the beauty of ish culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you mentioned working with kids, and I'm curious what you've learned from kids who have participated in your programs over the years.
Well, yes, there is always lots of learning and fun, for sure. Fun is kind of the main thing that I always remember. It's so pleasant to working with kids at the classroom. And and I love the fact particularly that they are not afraid of failure in terms of, oh, what if I don't do exactly what the instructor is saying? So they take risk, and I love that. They enjoy playing. They play all the time. It's the language of kids, and that's something that we as adults we forget about it. And it's so important to keep playing. And even I think for parents, it's easier to connect with that because you need to keep playing with the kids. I have two cats, and I keep playing with them. It's just somehow to connect also with that playful nature that we as humans have as well, and enjoy whatever we are doing. So I like also that they enjoy experimenting and creating new designs. They always, when I bring with a specific do-it-yourself kit, they start doing all their own toys, creating their own designs, putting their own colors, and that's all about, right? So you just want to start the spark. And there is no real separation, what is real and imaginary. However, they are very aware of all the environmental issues that they are bombarded, and they know the relevance of upcycling even more than us and adults, right? And they see that as a need, and there's a lot of projects that I'm so happy and pleased to see that is happening at the schools level, where teachers are actually very, some of them very proactive, supporting the creativity at the kids level and where they express. And I remember one of the schools that they start collecting actually all the wrapping, candy wrappings, and all this to create like those beautiful murals in their walls and create art. So it is just a beautiful way to express yourself. And kids have that spontaneity and that talent as well, a lot of imagination and creation. So I also like that they are very smart. They know a lot of fun facts and interesting information that they are very, they keep up with all this information more than even us ourselves. And they know a little bit about everything. And they like acting and protecting their environment and being those change makers at home. And and they keep thinking on what other materials can be upcycled, what other things they can do at their home, at their classroom level. So there is no, again, separation between, oh, I'm just in the classroom and here's where I have to be contributing to the environment and protecting it, but just they take that message beyond that, and that's also very lovely to see. I also love their sense of humor. There's always, because there is that playful spirit, that the sense of humor is always present there, and so joyful whenever they are doing their presence is so enjoyable. I always encourage, I always feel very inspired and encouraged when I'm working and connecting with the kids, because they are eager to learn. They create and enjoy, and they are in the present, and they enjoy what they are doing. And especially when you're talking about nature is our nature, and they connect so easy with that. and using art and elements of nature to create art is just a wonderful way to also connect with them, and they see it as a very valuable way of doing it. So working with kids definitely is it has been a very humble experience for me, and that gives me hope for a brighter tomorrow.
I love all of that. And what actually really stood out to me was when you said they're not afraid to fail. So you guys back in home, if you take one thing out of today, just take that with you and just, try something that you've been wanting to try for a while, and don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
definitely.
Okay, let's get into the fun part, the DIY part.
Hey.
So Elizabeth is going to lead us in how to make a beautiful pot planter. So Elizabeth, I will hand it over to you.
Excellent. So I'm assuming you read the list of instructions that Christine kindly listed for us, but if not, don't worry. I will just kind of introduce all the materials. So I hope you have at hand any of those plastic bottles. Can be 1 liter, can be 250 milliliters. Usually the big ones are good for flower pots. It needs more soil, so it's perfect for a flower or any plant that you want to use. The small ones are good for pencil holders, so any of those sizes are welcome. The designs are also, it doesn't matter what kind of bottle it has. However, my preference is more like, and I'm not advertising here, but more like the Coke, the one that has a little bit some divisions. But if you don't have that type of bottle, not worry, because we can always use our hands and use our thumbs as a measurement if you don't have a ruler at hand. The second material is to have a marker at hand, just a marker, because we're going to be drawing these lines, construction lines that we are going to be marking in our bottle, because as I mentioned, the technique that we use is all about symmetry. So we want to keep that as well. So the markers are important. Of course, one of our main materials, always the scissors at hand. Not a fancy scissors, plastic bottles. Yeah, plastic bottles are always very easy to cut, relatively easy, because it's a very flexible material. Then we need also an exacto and a knife. And when I go to the schools, I actually help them doing this because they cannot. So if there are kids here, so we need an adult supervision for sure and help. But if you're an adult, still I warn you to be careful when you are using it, and try to use always a cutting board. So it's so important to have it also. You don't want to be destroying and cutting your desk and everything, your working space. If this is totally an optional material, if you have at hand a wood burner, is great, especially if you want to have, perfect, Christine, you have it already. Especially if you want to have more like so at the end you can actually do a little bit of decoration like flowers or just put dots in the different location, but that's not mandatory. Like you can just draw it actually instead of just punching the holes, you just draw instead of that. So both anyway are good. For those that are thinking, yeah.
This could be used as like a water drainage as well, right? If you just wanted to poke some holes in the very bottom.
Thank you for that comment, because actually when you don't put the holes, it can be a water holder. So what I do is to have another piece of very simple, so you have it here, and that way you don't have a mess of water. So if you're using it for a flower pot, I will recommend that you have two. Very simple. This is just cut the top, and then it's where you put the plant. And then this can have a hole, just one or two, with your wood burner. So put it here, and this just retain all the water, so you don't have surprises later on. So I think that's the best way to do it, and also looks very cool like that. But great for that question, Christine. So then we need also acrylic paints. So what kind of acrylic paints? I usually use, these are very easy to get also in any, it's called Artist Love. And I also have my YouTube channel. There is a list of all the brands that I use if you want as well. If you already have acrylic paints at home, please feel free to use those. You don't need to buy new ones. So any acrylic paint works perfectly. I also use a bunch of, yes, sorry.
I'll link in the comments, guys. In the comments, I will link her YouTube channel so you can find that later.
Yes, thank you so much. Subscribe and follow us. We regularly actually keep posting a lot of new ideas and do-it-yourself kits and painting techniques. So it's great if you can subscribe as well and follow us. So thank you so much for sharing that, Christine. So in terms of brushes, so we need also brushes. I recommend to have those that are called like a jumbo brushes, are nice, have like a nice finishing. And actually when we're merging colors, it's very handy to have. We also have a small brush. It's also good for the last finishings that you do decorating. Also, brushes that are with a flat, a little bit more like a flat brush is good to have also for merging the colors. So any of those will be great to have. And again, in the YouTube channel, I indicate the types and the colors that I have, sizes. And something that I didn't, and I forgot to include in the list of materials that I sent to Christine is just a piece of cardboard. And I know that it will work as your palette. And I know that palettes are usually made of plastic. But besides that, we want to avoid the plastic is that the using a cardboard palette, it will help you to absorb the excess of water that acrylic paints have. So that will help you with the drying time when you're painting, and especially when we want to merge colors. So it's easier for us to start merging other colors instead of just kind of have a bunch of water, a very watery painting first layer in your bottle. So that's the materials that you will need to have at hand. If you don't have it, don't worry. I'm sure you're going to have some spring break Easters that you can have dedicate some time to this and go over in detail on the materials. So there are 5 main steps you need to follow to cut the bottle and transform it into a flower pot or a pencil holder. So with an adult supervision, the first thing to do is actually to cut the top of your bottle. So maybe you're not able to see this because it's a transparent material, but exactly, Christine can show that because it has a beautiful green bottle. Perfect. So you just make sure you cut the top, and you cut it with your cutting board and with an exacto. So make sure that the first, and I don't know if you want to share your experience as well, Christine, but because I have been doing this for years, that for me, like just like a cutting butter, but it has a technique. Like first, you kind of put the exacto and then hold very firm the bottle so it doesn't keep moving, and it's not risky to cut anything else or your desk or your fingers. So make sure you put that, and then you cut. And it doesn't have to go all around. What I do is just as long as you just penetrate that exacto and open the bottle, then you can just cut it around. So I don't know what was your experience and your way of
Yeah.
doing it, Christine.
So I did exactos. The first half I pushed it in and it was pretty easy to do. And then the last half, just to get it even all the way around, I did use the scissors. So I just did half with the exacto and then cleaned it up with the scissors, and it was pretty easy to do.
Perfect. And I forgot to mention, because I don't buy these bottles and I don't consume any of these bottles. So my neighbors donated and I collect them. So make sure you wash them very well, especially now during COVID time. So we need to be extremely clean. So make sure you clean, and also because it's very sticky, usually all these liquids of the Coke and everything, right? So thank you for that, Christine. So the other thing, the second step is some bottles, as I mentioned at the beginning, have a pre-mark transparent lines. And I know it's going to be terrible for me to show you from here, but this is just a Coke bottle. And the Coke bottle has a bunch of lines, and each actually has 10. It has, it has 2 main transparent lines. And from there, what I do, if you don't have those lines, is I just put my finger, my thumb, and I just start marking like the width of my finger, just to start to have those lines very symmetric one after another. So use a marker to highlight them. Yeah, exactly.
So what you guys can see here is I did that. So you can see the 2 black marks on the side of my thumb.
Yeah.
So you just do 2 black marks, and then the next one, then I would go, it's hard to do this backwards. Okay, then I would just keep going around.
Yeah.
And then just keep making those marks that are a thumb's width apart.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. So make sure it is symmetric because we want to keep that symmetry, because at the end, then unless you want to break the symmetry and you want to make a little bit thinner, and so it's up to you. So then cut along the line from top to bottom. So once you just get rid of the top of your bottle, then what I ask you to do is to cut until what distance? Well, that will depend. For example, for a flower pot, how much you want for your soil, right? So you cut until that point. So in the case of a pen holder, you may want to cover most of the size of your pencil. So then I usually just leave like about 5-10 centimeters, depending on how big is your bottle. So just think that until the point that you're cutting, then you won't be able to hold any material. So don't cut too down or too to the bottom. I don't know if that, if you already cut that, Christine.
I did
Did you
most
cut
of
that?
this, but I left one to do live. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to, so basically I want to cut the tip here to the top of my black line that I created. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. You guys can see that. So I'm just cutting all the way to the top of that black line that I made. And that's about good. So it's just to the top. Yeah.
How much distance you left from
From
the
the
bottom
top of the
to
line?
the line? Yeah, like 10 centimeters. Excellent.
So I
Yeah.
left about this much for my pot.
Yeah, perfect. That's great. Thank you for the explanation. I think it's, yeah, wonderful that you have a green bottle. Smart girl. So the third step, we need another small cut between each stripe. So once you have your 10 or 12 stripes around and you cut it, as Christine already explained, we need to put a cut in between, but where? So if you left already your 10 centimeters or 5 centimeters here, you want that line or that cut between the stripe. You don't want to put it on the side. You want it to put it in the middle. I don't know if that makes sense. So it's your stripe, but you want a cut to be on the bottom, underneath, and just in between that, like in the middle of that. Why? Because we're gonna be folding on the other side like this. I don't know if you were able to do that. Did that, Christy?
So I just put my mark in between those original two lines that I made.
Excellent.
So again, I did that all the way around.
Yeah, so you have your 10. How many stripes do you have? 10?
Let's count. So the first round, 10, 11. I have 11.
11. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I have 12 with one of those and 10. So it doesn't matter. It depends on the bottle, I guess, and how much, what is the dimension of your thumb. But as long as you cut that in between those two lines, I think that's the secret. And then don't cut too much. So again, it's once it just punch or it gets inside the plastic, just make sure that you just cut slightly down. How big? Well, the height of that cut is going to be the distance of your, or the, how do you call it? The diameter. No, it's not diameter. It's just the distance of this line of each of your stripes, because we want at the end to actually put that stripe in between that cut. So we want that to be inside. So it has to be that size. I don't know if that.
So just to clarify, so after the first round of cuts, then in the middle of those, in the middle of each, then we're going to make another line, and then we make a cut. So then we make just, and you can use your exacto knife for that. So you make little cuts, and then you go all the way around. And so each one of these that's on the bottom, you make a slit, and the slit is going to be large enough to fit the tip of your bottle.
Of your stripe, yeah, each of those lines. Yeah, excellent. Thank you for clarifying that. So the fourth step will be folding each stripe into this small cut that we were just cutting, but make sure it is folded into the opposite line. So we want to do, because if you fold it in the same line, it won't look like a, let me just show it with here, like circular. So we want to actually insert it on the opposite, right? So each of the stripes has to be on the opposite. So it's more like this nice circular shape that we have here.
And how far do we stick it in?
So you stick it to the bottom.
Let's see. Okay, so just so the bottom is kind of going in there?
Yeah, so you have in the opposite. So for example, here I have it in this side, but I'm gonna put it on the left side. So I make sure I put it there. Something that you can do as well, and I explain it also in the YouTube video with a close-up, is you can cut a little bit here, your stripe, so it actually, half of that stripe is inside and the other side is outside, so it locks. So it doesn't keep just coming out. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I see.
So you can do a small cut because we don't want to destroy it. Let me just do it here. So we cut it like this. And then we put it inside, and we make sure that that cut actually goes inside. And one part is inside and the other part is outside. And there is no way that that stripe is gonna go out anymore.
Got it.
So with that small cut, that makes a huge difference. So that way you don't have to keep gluing. You don't need to use any glue or anything. So once you make that cut, it's just cutting and folding.
Okay.
So I know that these.
I'm gonna just stick it in and hope for the best.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you do that cut, and that cut actually will make sure that it won't go out. So you just keep.
This is so cool. Oh my gosh.
Cool, huh? Because you don't need to use any glue or any of those.
Yeah, totally.
Silicone glues that can be also very toxic. So you just fold it, right? And it's just the way you fold it. And with that small cut, that will help you to avoid any stripe to come out. So with that way, you just keep folding and stick it with that cut that you did, right? So at the end, you have your beautiful bottle. This is a small one because I cut it almost until the bottom, but you have it all folded. And the beauty of upcycling is actually that it doesn't look like a plastic bottle anymore.
Yeah.
It's totally transformed. It's totally upcycle and transform into something very beautiful. So then you can do the same with your big bottle. If you have a big one, fold it and do the cut. So you actually insert it and it locks there. So you don't have to be worried about when you're painting that, oh, all my stripes are coming out. Oh, that's beautiful, Christine. Excellent.
Got it.
Nice. Actually, you left quite a bit here, right? Because you wanted as a flower pot, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Lovely. Nice.
I'm gonna regrow some bok choy in there. We had bok choy this week, so I think that's my plan for this.
Nice. Excellent. Yeah, it will work because you have enough area for the soil as well. Just make sure that you have your other bottle, cut it, to put it inside. Yep. Or what you can do if you don't have a bottle, a plastic bottle that fits in that size. What I also collect is tin cans. So I don't know if you collect also tin cans. So tin cans, you can also paint it and you just put it inside. And it's also very cool because it's more a starting material, like it's metal, right? So it's wonderful also to put it that way.
Okay, perfect. I think I have one of those. Okay.
Perfect. So you can use that one. So now, so finally, it's totally an optional step. They use the wood burner. You can decorate the bottle as you want, adding few holes around the pot, as this pot has been decorated with a wood burner. For example, I was telling you, you can put holes, and you don't have to worry now anymore of the water if it's going to be a flower pot, because anyway, you're going to have inside another container. Can be your or a small plastic bottle like this, or a small flower pot like this. This size of a can is perfect. It actually fits there. So
you
can just
okay.
there.
And so for that for that
Yeah,
can, then what you can do is if you want to drain it, you can just use a hammer and a nail to poke a couple holes in the bottom, and then that
yeah,
will help
drain.
so your roots can breathe.
Yeah, that's totally true and correct. Yeah, so you can do that as well. And so yeah, so that's totally optional. You don't have to do it because actually most of my bottles now are just decorated, and especially when we go to the schools and the kids just love spending time on the final step, which is the decoration. So you can
Yeah.
put a lot nice flowers, butterflies, whatever you're up to, or mandala. Mandalas are now are so into fashion, and it's so relaxing also to do mandalas. So you can start just doing your mandalas and just playing with the different sizes of those dots that you're putting into that.
Mhm.
So I now that we have created our beautiful flower pot or our pencil holder, now we're ready to paint. Is everyone ready to paint?
Yes.
Excellent. So for painting, and that's totally my technique, and I totally welcome new ways of painting. But the way I usually paint any of the craft that you see on my catalogs and online shops is with black. So why I start with black? So black is a wonderful way of canvas to start combining or mixing any color you want. So even to get from black to white, I start with black because it's a wonderful way to start playing with the shadows and the lights. And what that means is that once you have your bottle like this, especially with the transparent ones, so you want to start defining colors. So it's good to start just painting. How you can paint it? You can use a lacquer, like a lacquer just to use the shortcut and just paint it all super fast, or paint it by hand. What I usually do is you put your hand inside and you just start painting black. No need to paint it inside, just paint it outside. So everything just black, black cover, and wait. I usually wait an hour, or if you have a hair dryer, you just accelerate the process of drying and just make sure that it's completely dry, because otherwise you're going to start painting a gray, unless you like gray tones, flower pot. So just make sure that it's completely dry. Once it's dry, then you start thinking what color you want to paint your flower pot. Can be any tone. And my advice is, if you are more into green tones, so then you start painting with the darker green. And usually when I go to the schools, because we want the kids to start thinking about how to mix colors and the primary colors and the wheel of colors. So we want to start letting the kids to start mixing. So when we are doing a green color, what do we need, Christine, to mix? What are the colors that you need to mix?
To make a green color?
Make a green
Is
color.
that
Green,
like blue and yellow?
blue and yellow. Perfect. Good girl.
Oh, okay. Taking me back to kindergarten.
And if I said you need to start with the darker color of the spectrum of color you want to paint your flower pot, what color you need to put. So you said blue and yellow for green, but how much of blue and how much of yellow?
I guess you would put more blue because you want to make it darker.
Good start for you,
Okay.
Christine. Yeah,
Yay. A
perfect. So
plus.
you start, you start with the darker, you start putting more blues, and then you start adding a little bit more yellow, until the point that you get to mix with white. So at the end, you add just a little bit of white at the end. So the secret here is, okay, so I have my black, then I start thinking on the shadows. So where in my bottle the shadows are going to be located. So usually shadows are hidden areas. So hidden areas in this case will be these areas, right?
Mhm.
So we have the most exposed area, which is this one, but this will be more lighter color than this one, right? This is my darker color, where I'm gonna be located the darker, and where I'm gonna be locating the lighter color. So that means that I'm gonna paint my dark color, my dark green on that hidden area. And but doesn't mean that I'm not gonna use green in my lighter. Here is just gonna have a little bit more layers of color with more yellows, with more whites. So I don't know if that makes sense. So you just start, so as long as you just keep located where your shadows are gonna be and where your lights are gonna be, then you're gonna have that contrast at the end of your bottle that gives that helps with that 3D effect, right? That we want us to
Mhm.
keep in the bottle. So on top of the 3 dimension that by nature the bottle has, So we help to keep those three-dimensional effect with the colors that we are adding. So the exposed areas are lighter and then darker in the hidden area. So that way you will keep those tones. And in between, like what I was telling at the beginning, what I call more like a sunset effect is exactly where these two tones merge. So you don't define any color, but the merge of these two. So whatever the lighter color is and the darker gets, so you just mix in these two. So at the end, you have actually no definition of a clear where the white started, where the darker green ends, but a merge of both. So that is why it's more like
So
it's called more
what
like a sunset.
technique
Yeah.
do you do with the paintbrush? Do you do more of like what technique do you do with the paintbrush to get it to blend it properly, I guess?
Yeah, good question. So I have my palette here, and I have these to explain a little bit that in terms of how I paint it. So I'm gonna paint this in reddish tones, and so what I'm gonna start is what I call the jumbo. Is the jumbo? I start with the jumbo brush. So then, as I mentioned, we start with the darker. So if I want more like an orange, darker tone, so we mix a little bit of the red with just a little bit of yellow. So then we mix, we wait until pretty much all the paint is gone, it's just dry. So we are painting pretty much with a dry brush. And then on those hidden areas that I mentioned, so we start defining that area like this, right? So defining those hidden areas from all directions, bottom to top like this. So make sure it's there. So distribute that, and also on the side. So you start doing that also in the hidden areas of this where we put the stripe. So like this and like this. So once you have that, then you use another jumbo for the lighter tones. And with that color, with that brush, you are again going to use the red, but less red. In this case, we're going to use a little bit more of yellow. So we mix, and we actually use maybe a little bit of that white if you have it also at hand. So you can add a little bit of white. You just start mixing that tone. And then on my exposed area, which in this case, oops, here it is. So we started painting here like this. It can be more like in a circular, like in all directions. Yeah, in all directions. So again, don't be afraid of, it has to be exactly circular. It has to be.
Don't be afraid to fail. That's what I learned today.
As you said that, Christine. So please just be yourself. Just start experimenting with colors. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's your own piece of art. And remember, the main thing here is to play, to be joyful with whatever you're doing. And anyway, it's the beauty of art, right? Each piece is going to be unique. It's going to be yourself. So just start in all directions, especially in the areas that are more exposed, all directions. And then you start adding a little bit more of your white, a little bit more of your yellow. So just to start kind of lighting up those areas. But in all directions, pretty much. It's just fun to do all these things. And then you do the same here. So this is also the exposed area. So here you start putting one area a little bit more lighter color, and then you leave a little bit of darker on the other side. So just make sure that you keep the light and dark in both sides, on the top and also here on the bottom. So with that in mind, I think that's pretty much the main secret. Just give some break in between paints, because you need also the paint to be dry, and then you can start just putting now the new yellow with the orange. But no rules. There is no written stone rules here, so it's up to you to experiment, to play with the colors and combine and mix all these tones. And so that's pretty much how you kind of get all the colors and the contrast as well. And just at the end, you can start decorating. And the decoration that I do is just using your small brush, like the one that has also very thin bottom. So I use the bottom of your
Okay.
small brush to just start putting dots. And I like when you start with a bigger dot and then small ones. So that gives also a nice effect of 3 dimension. And you can start just mixing, or as I said, the mandala as well. You start just kind of, and it's you treat the bottom of your brush as those ink pens. So you have to be having your paint on the side. So make sure that you have enough paint. So then you just put a little bit here, and then you just start decorating around. So, so that's, I don't know if so far we have any questions from the audience as well, Christine, or from your side.
Mostly just kind of comments that people are excited. No questions yet, but
Okay.
but we want to see everyone's creation. So please post after you make it. Please take a picture and post it in the comments because we would both love to see. And that's one technique. You can of course you can paint it in a completely different way if you wish, or you don't even have to paint it. It's totally up to you. Just showing you one possible option. And I was always like, because I saw that technique of all your stuff and I was like, how is she doing that? It looks so cool. So now I know your secret.
Now you
So
know the secrets.
do you have any other kind of tips, tricks to share, or?
Well, actually, the last step, I really love it because there is a lot of ideas or things that you can add at the end, like just as a finishing. You can also use toothpicks. Toothpicks are also good when you have a big dot and then you want to put inside of a big dot just a smaller dot. So that's wonderful to use your toothpick for those finishing.
Awesome.
And then you just add it into the last
That is so cute. I love
of
it.
your bottle. And you have your little cactus or plant. Plants makes people happy, so why not to have one by
Yeah,
your side?
exactly. I can't wait to put a little plant in this. I'm gonna paint this offline, but yeah, paint it and decorate it and then put a little plant in it.
Yes,
Um,
all your art.
and if any of you guys have questions, put them in the comments and then we can answer them at a later time as well. And Elizabeth, thank you so much for sharing that. It was so awesome to have you here with me, teaching me. We're having fun, and love to see all the stuff you're up to. And thank you so much for your support with Bud Funding. And if anyone else has any other questions for Elizabeth, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for the invitation. It was fun. Remember, always keep the playful presence in your life and art as part of that. So we're very active in social media. So you can find us at ciclomanias.com. And I don't know if Christine doesn't mind to just put the name. I know it's a tricky name. We are also very active on Facebook. We use also hashtag Ciclomanias. And in Instagram, we use with the Y, Ciclomanias, from our English-speaking audience. And we have also an Etsy shop where we also have different products, but especially do-it-yourself kits that are very popular at the schools and especially with family activities at home. And if you feel like having me as well to instruct you and walk you through different steps and techniques, I'm happy to do that as well. We do also a lot of activities for the communities and working at schools or for the families, birthday parties and things like that. So thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to talk about my passion.
Yeah, thank you so much. And everyone out there, I hope you enjoy this project. Again, please post your creations in the comments. We would love to see. And I will see everyone here live next Wednesday. Thank you so much and have a great week.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.